Hello everyone, this is JPL, and today I'm joined with...
Matthew.
Yes, and we are the Council of Podcast Name in Brackets, and today we will be talking about our top 5 thriller slash horror movies. Okay, you have anything you want to say here, Matthew?
Yeah, these are just any type of movie that's meant to be scary, whether it is thriller or straight up horror. I don't think we have a lot of horror. For me
Yes.
personally, horror doesn't tend to be that scary for me, so mine are ranked based on the ones that have either the artistic ones or the ones that stuck with me after I had finished watching them.
And me personally, I like to stay away from horror movies just because I don't think they are, one, too interesting, and two, I don't really need that in my life. And so, for the stuff in my list, those are stuff that I think that while I was watching them, I had felt the most tension on, and I can explain most accurately the fifth one why I put that on my list. And I think we should get started. So, how we do this is we start with our number fives, talk about that, then we go on to 4, 3, and 2, and so forth. And yeah, so let's just get started. You want to start, Matthew?
Yeah, my number five choice is probably the most what you would think of as a horror movie on my list is The Conjuring, and this is one of the few horror movies that I actually felt was just really well made, and also it kind of did scare me. Usually I'm very attuned to the artificiality of a horror film, but in this one, especially since it is based on a true story and you can look up what actually happened. And so it's about this couple who goes around to different places in the U.S. and helps them deal with evil spirits. And it's a really well made film. It slowly builds the tension. It isn't full of jump scares or anything like that. And I would say it's probably the film most responsible for starting this new renaissance in horror movies that's been happening recently.
Okay, I have not seen the movie. The closest thing I've seen about it is probably the trailers, and I stay away from anything that has to do with a demonic stuff or ghosts, for instances. And so yeah, I don't want to get anywhere near that stuff. So yeah, I don't want to watch it, and I don't want to go anywhere near it. So yeah, there you go.
That's fair.
All right. So while I was speaking, I did some last minute changes. If you saw that, Matthew,
Yep.
very interesting. We'll see how this works. So my number five is a classic movie that probably everyone would think of when thinking about thriller, and that would be Jaws. You know, it's probably one of the very earliest examples of a thriller movie, besides the Hitchcock movies. Um, and you know, Jaws is one of those movies that got people scared to go into the water. And you know, everyone recognizes the Jaws theme. Everyone knows that theme, even without even watching the movie. I know myself, I know that theme. And I've seen the movie a couple times. It's really enjoyable, even though, you know, there's still some dated aspects about this. You would say that the shark kind of looks fake, but to me, I think it looks just fine. I'm not really complaining about it. I like the look of it. And so, yeah, it's a really nice movie. I would recommend it to not your younger children, though. That might be too much for them if you want them to get in the bath again. So yeah.
Yeah, I have not yet seen Jaws. It is very near the top of my watch list. And yeah, it's just a very influential movie. And from what I hear, it's a very well constructed thriller as well. My number four pick is maybe a little less well known, and it's called Under the Skin. came out in 2014, and it's a very strange movie. It's very slow, but it's also really interesting how it builds tension, and there's very little dialogue in the movie, and the little dialogue that there is, I think there's one thing that is said in the movie that actually influences the plot or the characters. And so it's just this really interesting way of making a movie. And one of my favorite things of the movie is the soundtrack, which I may end up talking about eventually, but just a very effective film, and it stayed in my mind long afterwards, which I can't always say of movies.
Okay, I don't know anything about it unless you... Is that about the models, Matthew?
No, that's a different one.
Okay. I don't think you talked to me about this one, have you?
No.
Okay,
this one stars Scarlett Johansson.
I don't know anything about this then.
It is a very art house film, so it is going to be a bit outside of what a lot of people like, but I think it's a very rewarding film if you watch it and sit through it.
Okay then. I guess onto my number 4, and this one is gonna actually take a little bit of explanation, and my number 4 is actually Alien vs. Predator. Now, the Alien vs. Predator movies do not have the best reputation in terms of being a good movie. They're enjoyable movies, I feel personally, especially the first one. In all honesty, what I mean about thriller and horror is that I watched this movie when I was younger. Like in 2007 was the first time I watched this, and I was about 8 or 9 at that time. And boy, howdy, the Alien and Predator just both terrified me. Both things would actually haunt and kill, and boy, I was scared when I watched that thing. And so I had like nightmares about those stuff, and like I just knew that, oh boy, that existed. I would not be happy to see those things. So yeah, that's my explanation there. The first one, I will say, is still a pretty nice, decent movies for Alien vs. Predator. Even though it is a PG-13 movie, it does a good job at being really creative about things. Even though CGI doesn't look the best in this movie. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one, so I can't comment on it, but I've heard that it is a very scary film, even if it isn't at the quality of some of the other Alien and Predator movies.
Alright.
Well, I guess on to the next one. My number 3 is a small science fiction movie from 2001, Donnie Darko.
Okay.
And this is about a kid who's mentally ill, and he keeps hallucinating this giant bunny who tells him when the world's going to end. And it's part comedy, part drama, part horror, but it's really just interesting to watch. It's one of those movies where they have this self-fulfilling prophecy and all of these weird things going on, and it takes a while for everything to be pieced together. But it's really good, really high quality, well-made film, and yeah, there's a lot of very thrillery aspects to it. It's another one that stays with you long after you finish it.
I know that you really enjoyed that movie, and that you are always trying to push that thing onto me, to the point of like showing clips of it, and I know that you love the soundtrack for at least one song of it, I believe.
Yeah, there are some really good songs in the soundtrack.
So yeah, I know that you really love that thing. So yeah,
Yep.
yep. I've not seen it, by the way. Yep.
It is worth watching if you can get your hands on it.
I don't know. It looks too weird for me.
That may also be true. It is a little bit strange.
Yeah. If it's as strange as Legion, then I don't know.
I don't know if it's as strange as Legion, but maybe closer to Inception.
Okay. Whatever you say. Anyway, so on to my number 3, which is continuing this theme here, Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Now, if I can think this through, I believe this one is actually not loved by fans. I could be wrong about this, but personally, I feel like of the Alien vs. Predator movies, this is the most underrated one. I feel like there's just a lot of things that they do here that are much better than what they did in the first one. I love the Predator in this one. I love his design. He just looks so cool. They introduced another alien in this one, and I will not say anything about that. But the thing that I will say about this that makes it creepy is that it's based in our real life time in a small town. And, like, the idea of the alien and the predator just both being in our urban and rural cities and towns just makes it creepy. And there's just one specific moment in the movie that I can never forget that just haunts me, and that's just the hospital scene where the aliens come into the hospital, and it's just terrible, and it gets really graphic at that point, and I do not want to go more into that, and I definitely do not watch this with your family because you will terrify them. It's really nah, it's bad. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, another one that I have yet to see, and I don't know all that much about it, but knowing both of the franchises, I would imagine that it can get a little bit violent and thrillery.
Yeah, to the point. Yeah, to the point where I was watching this with FlameWolf and his brother a couple years back, and when I was watching with them, when we got to that point, they were like, "Oh my goodness, did they really put that in this movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, like wow." It's no wonder. It's a wonder how these people even stay alive. At this point, I would have killed myself. They would have said, and so yeah, it gets really dark at some point. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. I guess on to number two. This one is probably one of the more well-known thriller horror movies, and that's The Silence of the Lambs. I watched this movie maybe 2 years ago, and it blew me away just how good it is. It's a slow burn, but the whole the climax of the film is incredibly tense and takes everything that has been built up so far. It has one of the best. I guess he's not the main villain, but Anthony Hopkins does a really great job. So does Jodie Foster. Great performances, great cinematography, great everything. Yeah, it's just really creepy, but in a very well-made way.
Yes, I know very little about this movie. I know about Hannibal Lecter. I think I've seen clips of him, and from the small stuff I've seen, he does a really good job, and I do enjoy his performance in that small bit of aspects there. A lot of really quotable stuff, and it's just stuff you would love to just say. And there's not really much I can say because I've never fully seen the movie. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, and as horror movies go, it isn't the most scary. There aren't really any jump scares or anything like that, but it very subtly builds up. Yeah, really well made. definitely deserves it. It's one of the few films to get 5 major Oscars, so it definitely deserves that.
Okay. So moving on to my number 2, and I'm gonna be continuing this theme here. My number 2 is Alien, the first movie, and I believe of the Alien movies, I believe this one is my personal favorite. Because it's the introduction of the alien species. It's just a lot of unknown factors going on. There is definitely a lot of tension brought into this because you don't know where the alien is, and it's just a single alien and part of this well done crew. And just one thing I love about this Alien franchise is like when the chest burster or chest buster scene happened, none of the other actors knew what was going to happen, and the director never told him what was going on. And so when that scene finally happened, it was a shock for them to finally see the alien come into action. And I thought that's just a really cool detail about these movies here, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is. I think the first Alien is my personal favorite as well. And yeah, just a really well done thriller. Really well made and well acted. The visual effects and the practical effects really cool. And it definitely builds an ambiance to it. Very good sci-fi horror.
Very good.
Horror. Yeah. Well, my favorite is this is a more artistic and kind of a classic film by the Russian director Andrei Tarkovsky, and this is called Stalker, and it's about 3 men who go into this mysterious area and sort of what happens to them there. And this movie was really interesting because it never really feels like a horror movie until after it's done. And I mean, there's one really cool scene throughout that just builds the tension perfectly, and it kind of just stays in your head afterwards. There's a reason it's a classic and definitely worth checking out. Just really well made, really beautiful, and it kind of creeps up on you slowly, and it's very subtle, kind of quiet, very poetic as well. But I mean, it never delves completely into horror, but it's always has this tension to it.
Okay. I've not heard or seen anything about it, so I can't say anything about this. That seems to be the case with a lot of your choices, Matthew.
Yep.
Yes. And before we get on to the number 1, I just want to put out this little advertisement here. If you want to read more about Matthew's little reviews here, you can check him out on Twitter. Matthew Broderick, I believe.
I'll give you the link to put in the description. So check the description.
Yes, and just look for Matthew Barksdale. That's correct. Look for that on Twitter.
Link in the description.
Of course, and you can get find out what his little ideas are at the time he does things. So yeah, one more of that. Just check that out. And on to my number 1. I'm going to be continuing my little theme here that I've been going, and my number 1 choice for thriller and horror is the movie Aliens, the second movie of the Alien movies. And the reason why I chose this one instead of the first one is quite simple. There are a lot more aliens this time. One is terrifying enough, but when you have a bajillion, boy howdy, that gets terrifying really quick. And boy, I always get really nervous watching that movie. Like any of the Alien movies, I get real tense watching them because the aliens themselves are probably my biggest fears I could have. It's just having these aliens comes out, and having Marines, these guys who are trained to fight and kill things, them being getting their butts kicked and them dying all over the place. Just not a really fun thing to have, and the fact that they just get overpowered, and the fact that there's just so much in this movie. James Cameron does a fantastic job of making a good sequel to the movies, and I love what he's done here. I only wish that they did not change the ending of the movie with Alien 3 and the rest of them. I kind of wish Neil Blomkamp got to make his sequel so that we can have a slightly better ending than what we got. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this.
Yeah, I think Aliens. I don't enjoy it quite as much as the first one, and I think it goes more towards action than horror. But I do definitely agree that it is incredibly well made, and yeah, the best one since the original. And yeah, I do hope that the franchise gets taken in a better direction, though that isn't looking like it will be the case.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
I don't want to talk about that movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully someone can come along and fix the franchise.
Assuming Ridley will let them.
Yeah.
Yep. So then, now that I've covered pretty much all the Alien movies, I think that's all we have for this list, am I right?
Well, yeah, I was going to name some honorable mentions. Two films that didn't make it onto this list because I've seen them relatively recently, and I haven't seen either of them a second time, so I don't know how well they hold up. But the first one is Annihilation, which kind of a similar movie to Stalker, except more of a horror than a slow burn thriller. And that one just took over my mind for a few days, and to the point where I actually had to read the books, and then it's great. And then another one that came out recently called The Endless, which is a really cool gem of a indie film. And then other thrillers, like I really enjoyed Get Out. Yeah, Cabin in the Woods, great horror comedy. The Conjuring 2, which I put the first one on the list. So
Yep, a lot of movies. I've not seen a lot of thriller movies, or maybe I have and I do not choose them to be thrillers because I don't feel thrilled by them. Haha. Anyway, so yeah, I don't really have much option except for maybe the movie 7, which was initially on my list before I remembered I have Alien movies to put on, so you know how that goes. So yeah, I believe that's all we have for this one, am I right?
Yep.
And so yeah,
Well,
thank you guys for watching, and I guess we'll see you all next time. Bye.
bye.